Okay, now we're going to start with our second topic this evening, and then we'll talk about IDEs, text editors, and language server protocol. So give Dan a warm welcome. Yeah, Dan.
Okay, yeah, so this is a talk about IDEs, text editors, and the language server protocol. So who knows what the language server protocol is? Awesome, one person. Okay. Who knows what an IDE is? Well, everybody, amazing. And a text editor, yeah.
No one.
And the question is, can I change the slides? This is the second challenge. Yes.
Woo!
So this is an IDE. What makes an IDE an IDE?
Magic.
Magic. Loads of magic, yeah.
Slowness.
And what makes text editor a text editor? This is an arrow. And this is nano. And yeah, I mean, and Vim. Vim's also, is it a text editor or an IDE?
Text editor.
What makes it a text editor? Like what makes an IDE? What are the defining qualities of an IDE?
Like default behavior is a text editor, and you could make it with some additional magic plugins and so on.
Some magic plugins?
Something like IDE.
Okay, but what is an IDE? Like, what does it mean?
IDE is some tool which just work magically just by a few clicks. Now it works.
Yeah, it's magic, I guess. But it's an integrated development environment, right?
Yeah.
So I remember the first time I did programming, like actually when I was at college, I used this Turbo Pascal, right? And it had an integrated development environment. And this is what it was. It was the Pascal IDE. And what did it mean? I don't think it had auto-completion or any magic like this, but it had syntax highlighting. It knew how to highlight the syntax of Pascal. It had integrated help. You can go onto any function and you can look up how to use this, and you can browse like the whole library. It's like it's really you had Pascal and you had these things. Yeah. It was an integrated development environment. And yeah, you may correct me if I'm wrong because I have a very bad memory, but that's what I took to understand as an integrated development environment. And so if we think about it like this, yeah, Vim. Is Vim an integrated development environment?
No, because by default it will not understand the syntax of your programming language.
By default it does understand the syntax. Yeah, but it highlights the syntax.
Highlights the syntax,
Yeah.
Yeah, but for about this, the context and so on, about the types.
Context, yeah. So it's not very intelligent. I guess it can't sort of dive in and parse the code and sort of really understand what's going on.
But I think for C it does. For C.
Does it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you've got the make command and all this stuff is built in for C, and it's really like C.
I mean, it has the text support for C at least, and there you have quite, I think, some similar IDE features, but not, of course, as advanced as you have maybe for, I don't know, let's say Android Studio and Kotlin.
Yeah, but it's still actually it's an integrated. I still call it at one level like an integrated development environment. You've got everything you need in Vim to do a lot of your work. It's better than just editing something in Ed, you know, or just in VI. Like Vim really brings a lot more to the table. So it's, yeah, I mean, for the purpose of the talk, I think we should differentiate between the text editor and the IDE. And for the purpose of the talk, we might say that Vim's a text editor, and something like IntelliJ is a fully blown IDE with magic. Yeah, I mean that's Vim. And yeah, what do we actually want from an editor? Like when we're programming, what do we want? So we want syntax highlighting. It's like we take for granted, but you can imagine programming without it. It's probably the fundamental thing, right? Like if you're going to be programming, then you want syntax highlighting.
And refactoring.
And refactoring.
And debugger integration.
I dream about that.
Well, one of the main features also is like directory tree. Like
Yeah, navigation. Yeah.
Yeah,
auto
navigation.
completion.
So auto completion.
Like click to go features, like
Yeah, you go to definition.
yeah, go to definition.
Automatically updates for your IDE.
Like automatically updating the IDE.
Yeah, well, updating your IDEs, the plugins your IDE uses.
Yeah, maybe that's a feature, maybe that's
But I
not.
hate that feature. Doing work.
We want auto completion with help.
With help, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe with hover. So you sort of hover over it and it says what this thing is put up. It says, and you've got the help, you've got the definitions, and it's actually really helping you as you're going along. It's sort of suggesting things and saying, yeah, you want to do something, you want to refactor, you want to extract a method, you want to generate a class, you want to complete the assignment and the constructor. Yeah, all these things we want, and all of these things are provided by IDEs, but we're using Vim. Vim provides solutions. So Vim, why are we using Vim? I mean, we discussed this a little bit at the beginning of the meetup, I guess. So yeah, Vim's incredibly fast. You invest a lot of time into Vim actually, and you become very good at it. And go into a different editor like IntelliJ or something like this, even though you can have the Vim modes. For me at least, I still want to be back on the terminal. I still want to be doing things fast. And I still want to use Vim actually. I still want to use the terminal. I don't want to use a GUI. And Vim provides solutions. Vim can help you with a lot of these problems. So like we would have said C-tags. Vim supports C-tags out of the box. You can get some, I'm a PHP developer, and you can get some pretty okay kind of suggestions with C-tags for auto-completion and things like this. It's not perfect. Vim has some level of code formatting support, at least with indentation. That's probably one of my favourite features of Vim, just doing equals G and like formatting and indenting code. It's really useful. What else does it do? So locating files against C-tags, refactoring. Like what's the best feature in Vim for refactoring?
You mean native Vim?
Yeah.
The native
Regular expressions.
Regular
Very
expressions,
advanced
yeah.
regular expressions.
And maybe macros.
Yeah, mixture of macros and regular expressions.
I mean, when I started using Vim and I had to sort of do large-scale refactorings, like, really complicated things like renaming a method, or worse thing ever with moving a class, actually. What do people do? So, you're doing Python at the moment? And
Various languages. I can't really tell.
do you object-oriented languages?
Yes.
Okay. PHP, and Magento, and PHP, and
a little bit of Python, Java, JavaScript at the moment.
okay,
Python and Go.
Go.
okay, and Python, Ruby.
Ruby and PHP.
Okay. I had really big problems with Vim. Like it was really good and fast. But you ran into problems. Like if I had to move a class, like this sounds like the easiest thing in the world, doesn't it? Just move a class, where you just take a file, you rename, or you move the file from here to there. Good. That's the first step. Then you need to change the name of the class. Think, okay, that's pretty easy. I just edit the name of the class to match, because in PHP you have auto-loading, and I think it's the same in Java, right? The class name has to correspond with the file name, and the namespace has to, at least in PHP, with the namespace has to correspond with the file path. You rename the class, and then then rename the namespace. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. You've done some text editing, it could have gone wrong. And then you need to update every single file in this 10,000 file project that's referencing this class. And it's like, and it always ended up writing like a one-liner, like for I in ls files, do this, do some sed, or some Perl regex expression, do this, and every time. And basically it just discouraged me from from refactoring my code like this. maybe put more effort into making it correct in the first place. But yeah, it's really problematic. And there's other things like the auto-completion. A lot of people, like I know this sort of well-established PHP developer using Emacs, and he's like, yeah, I don't need auto-completion. I don't need like all these sort of IDE features. And I was the same. I thought, yeah, I don't need these things. I'm perfectly happy with that. And the best thing is I can memorize the APIs. You know. But yeah, this is really difficult when you're coding. You need to look up everything, and you might not miss it if you haven't used it. But once you use these features, you really miss them, and you even realise how they can even inform you when you're developing, and just make everything a lot less painful. So Vim, for at least PHP, you've got the C tags, but yeah, with the namespaces and all this contextual stuff, it's really not working very well. Yeah, so IDE solved these problems, so we can go to PHP Storm, we can go to IntelliJ, and I don't know what other IDEs people use, like
PyCharm.
PyCharm.
Yeah, it's basically a Python IDE, also from JetBrains, based on IntelliJ.
Oh yeah. So there's the IntelliJ universe, I guess, which is really good. Big, yeah. And yeah, it's like PHP Storm is the IntelliJ PHP IDE, and it solves all these problems. It does it really quite well, I'd say. It does them well, and you've got everything you could probably desire in this IDE. But yeah, they also have the problems, just the nature of themselves, because they're very heavy, they're very big. They have a long indexing time when they're sort of scanning all the files in your project. You have to use the mouse. They do have Vim modes. You can install a Vim plugin for these things, but at least in my experience, yeah, it's not that great. And you certainly can't use the Vim plugins that you're used to. So I don't want to use an IDE. I want to use a text editor like Vim, but yeah, I want all the features of an IDE. So, and I want to program at the speed of thought, right? So I really want to sort of think about things and do them like instantly. And with Vim, you can get pretty fast at editing text, but actually sort of just transferring, like you want to create a factory, you want to create a registry, you want to do this, that. You should be able to do that really quickly. And I think with snippets and things like that, you can. What's my point? So I really wanted all these things. And I didn't want to switch to PHP Storm, so I started to write something called Factor. So this is a P, this is the exclamation mark, this is like a factorial, right? It's called Factor because it's refactoring, and this is the P because it's PHP, so it's P actor, like factor, you know, it's a clever name. And so Factor actually does all of these things. It does auto-completion, it does the refactoring, it does jump to definition and find definition, rename things. You can move classes. That was the first thing I implemented in this project. So I can maybe load it up. Maybe, I mean I can't actually read what's there. Maybe there's some screenshots, maybe not. Oh, it doesn't matter. So yeah, basically it's, I mean I can show you here, maybe. Let's load a library. And let's get some code. Yeah, so Factor is providing like the auto completion. So it's sort of statically, it's analyzing this file using a parser, and then it's sort of getting the position of the cursor, then it's going in and saying, okay, which method do you belong to, okay, which class do you belong to, which namespace you're in, maybe there's some name imports here, and then it's using like the conventions to locate any other files which are referenced here, and then it's analysing them as well. And it's doing all this in real time. So unlike in a lot of IDEs where they're indexing all the time, this is actually, it knows, there's a convention in PHP, and also loading conventions, so you can actually determine where a class is just by knowing its namespace. So yeah, that's quite cool. It works in a fundamentally different way from an IDE, because you don't need like any startup time, basically. And it's also doing like the refactoring, so you can say, I don't know, code equals foobar. It's quite difficult to type. Return code, and you can say, okay, then I'm going to extract that to a method. So I've got like a bunch of shortcuts, and I say em, and I say the method name, and I say the method name is foobar, and then it sort of adds the method, adds the return type, does all this stuff. Yeah, and it's kind of intelligent with the variable scope as well, so it knows what values should be returned and what things should sort of go into it as arguments. And that it does quite a lot. It does most of the things that I'd expect to do in PHP Storm or IntelliJ. So I kind of this took quite a long time to do, but it kind of solved my problem. So what's the problem with this? Like, how does it even work actually? So factor is a CLI tool. So I think there's something similar in Python. I think it's called Jedi, right? I think Jedi is just auto-completion.
Yes, but it's not a language, so it's not a language. Jedi is not it's just auto-completion.
Yeah.
But you cannot do it's not a language server protocol.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah.
there's a Python language server protocol, but it's not good. I tried it and I switched back to Jedi.
So factor is kind of the point I'm trying to say is factor is not a language server. Factor just has an RPC command, and that just reads from standard in, and I think I can maybe demonstrate what it does. So we say So let me think where I might have this. Yeah, here. So you have no, not that one. Cat replay.json. Yeah, so and put it through JQ. So that's an RPC command. So this is what's being sent from Vim to factor. And so if I then pass this to factor, and also put it through JQ, or not, then you see the response as well. So we're passing this to factor, and then factor's returning some command. So there's a Vim plugin, which is understanding the protocol, the RPC protocol, the factor specific RPC protocol, and it has handlers for these commands. So this is an update file source, and it's saying the path and the source code, and it's actually applying a diff to the source. So you can, it's better to apply the diff than just reload the file. So what's the problem with this? So the problem with this is that I've developed like a complete RPC protocol that nobody else uses, right? So why would somebody else want to use this? Okay, so like Emacs, right? That's another editor that doesn't have any PHP capabilities. So actually some guy did pick up this protocol, and he's written like an Emacs client for factor, which is quite cool, except that it doesn't support everything. But other than that, nobody else is supporting this protocol. So what's the benefit of the protocol? The benefit of the protocol is that anybody can implement it in any language. So it doesn't just have to be PHP. If I had this factor protocol, and I said, okay, this is a generic protocol, it can be used, you can use it for Ruby, you just have to write a Vim client for Ruby, and then you can write a factor server for Ruby, right? And you can do this. And this is what Microsoft did. So Microsoft have been quite active, I think, in open source, like quite recently, more than the last maybe 4 or 5 years. And they've released their own editor, to sort of really try and get some of the editor market, I guess. This editor is called VS Code. And with VS Code, it's actually quite a good idea. It's a text editor. It's nothing more. It uses, or they have separately developed, a language server protocol, which is a defined document you can find on the web, and it describes in detail a full protocol used for exactly the same use case that I'm written this factor RPC protocol for. And you can use it in VS Code to do all your IDE things in VS Code. But because it's open source, they've also written their clients for lots of other things. But let's have a look at the protocol quickly. So yeah, factor. Oh shit. Yeah, factor's also kind of implementing this. At least it's a work in progress. But it's useful just to see how it works. So every language server is a server, right? And you can launch them in two ways generally. They can either launch on a port, on a HTTP port, or you can launch it sort of as a pipe. So this is the default way that most things would invoke it. So you have Vim, and I can show you. Yeah. Yeah. So we're saying, oh no, this one's using the server. Okay. But the basic idea is that Vim or any IDE, any text editor, would just open a process and start streaming output. Input will start streaming like stuff to it and reading from the process. So you've just got this single process communication thing. And that's really good because it means that when you start your text editor, it just launches the remote process and just starts doing stuff, and it works quite well. But for debugging,
So you mean it's like a socket or what?
it's I don't know how you call it. It's a pipe. It's you just start the process, and then you start sending data to the process.
Okay.
And reading from this process's standard out, sending it to the standard in. Yeah. But you can also run it. Not all of them, but a lot of them you can also run as a HTTP server. Oh, it's not a HTTP server, sorry.
Passwords.
Yep. So that's running on localhost on port 8888. And I can start. Hopefully this works. So yeah. So I load up a file, and one of the So
now you send the content of this file to this language server, right?
Yeah.
And what does it do now?
So basically, like the language server is mirroring what you're doing in Vim. So if I start editing in my Vim session, then you can see it's sending updates.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So each time it's sending the whole document, and then you've actually got the auto-completion as well. But it's sending the whole document, it's synchronizing it. There's two modes that it can do this in. You can either have full text synchronization, where it sends the full document each time, or it can do sort of a diff. So it'll only send the diff to the server, and you've obviously got a lot less network traffic. And then we can see the completion results. Not very clear, to be fair. Not that interesting either. But you've got the completion list, and you've got text edits. So again, one of the, I'd say maybe even, no, the language server has two different ways of doing completion. It will either send a list of suggestions, and then it will leave it to the editor to figure out how to deal with these, or it can send text edits. In which case it will just return a bunch of text edits for this completion, and it will apply those text edits. And that's interesting in these edge cases where the completion is non-trivial. I don't know, maybe you're sort of completing parameters and things like this, and it's not quite as simple as just a list of yeah, completions. Another really nice thing is additional text edits. So imagine that yeah, you've auto-completed a class name. The server can then, once it's figured out, okay, I've got your class name, and I can see that you haven't imported this class name into your class yet. So the additional text edits can include text edits to import a class or perform additional operations on your document. Again, it's pretty typical stuff you'd expect from an IDE. So yeah, in theory, by implementing all of this protocol, you've implemented back into a really good IDE. Yeah, so it's using a client, a server, it's using the happy client. So then we need editors, right? We need the text editors. So there's actually a really big list of supported text editors. So yeah, Emacs has one. NCM2. Anyone using NCM?
I used the verse.
And this also, yeah, there's a backend for factor in this one, and like backend for
Completion.
conqueror of completion.
Yeah, I heard it just a couple of days ago. Yeah, it's the first time. Yeah. What is
actually use it. But when it worked, yeah, from what I see of it, it's amazing. So it's a Node.js.
JSON file. I've used it for quite a time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's the same sort of configuration as VS Code as well, right?
It will respond, and it's really accurate. But the problem why I turned it down was the language server protocol for Python. It's not really good.
Yeah,
That's why I prefer JDI.
Only support completion, or they have like a limited scope. I'm not sure if this is going to be useful, but yeah, as I couldn't get it, doesn't work in this browser. Let's move. I mean, so it's got, this is Python, no, this is Java, what is this? It's got traces.
It's like Scala.
Scala,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes,
So yeah, and it's got like snippet support, it's got great fast auto, well, yeah, the auto completion is based, speed is based on the server. One thing I found was really amazing is like I opened a JSON file and suddenly it just started auto completing my JSON because it somehow detected the JSON schema. I'm not sure how it does that. But yeah, this looks like a really promising client for Vim, which would potentially make it as good as an IDE. I mean, it really, from what I've seen, it really improves the situation even on like Factor and these other Vim clients.
Yeah, I'm always missing colors in the.
Yeah, they're working on that.
It's really complicated to look at all the parameters and stuff.
Yeah, another feature I miss is when I'm doing auto completion, or in IntelliJ, you get the names of the parameters for the functions when you're completing them. That'd be really nice in Vim.
There's
in
actually
Ecodoc, in Kotlin you have a
But it's a hover, right?
no, that's not a difference I realized. The names of the parameters in my function call.
Yeah, I think.
But if I click on find space,
yeah.
then it would automatically put find space in my file, and then with the parameter name, but the parameter name selected, so I can already either change it or move on.
Yeah.
So it provides conquer of completion. It provides using the snippets, but it's all the time based on the language server protocol.
Yeah, exactly.
The protocol provides it, it can use it, otherwise it doesn't.
And the protocol provides quite a lot, actually, a surprising amount. So yeah. Specification, yeah.
Thinks it's okay.
Yeah.
Much better.
So the weird thing about the specification is this is by Microsoft, right? They have like their own protocol. They didn't use an existing protocol for actually the communication. So they send a header with like the content length and a couple of other optional fields. And from the JSON is using JSON RPC with /r/n. like the Microsoft
Like how
New
you do
line.
new
It's
lines
like,
in
what
Microsoft.
the fuck? What?
Really? The only system that uses character turn.
It's like, it's just rubbing it in, you know. It's Microsoft.
Yes.
It's really annoying. Anyway, apart from that, so yeah, it comes with the content length and the header, the content type, which is, yeah, I guess always the same. Yeah, again, sort of maybe some legacy to protocol, because you set the content type to VS Code. Yeah, and that's what the request looks like. So you have Windows new line content. But yeah, maybe if you look at the fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Is it gonna? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So you've got like the basic stuff. So when you first connect with the server, you send an initialize. You say maybe what your process ID is if you want, the root path of the project, the root URI of the project because the other one's deprecated, and the capabilities which and if for example you're going to use full text synchronization or diff, I think they've got a word for that, but yeah, sort of diff based things. Then you've got also do notifications. So at any point the language server can just fire off a notification and it would show in your editor. You can cancel requests. You've got the window, so you can sort of show a message to the user via a notification. Capabilities, workspace, folders, configuration, not very interesting. You've got the text synchronization stuff, so there's a did open request it into the save it if you've got the intention of saving it, and then after you've got did save, did close. Diagnostics, so this is more, if you've got a static analysis tool, which is doing some stuff, then you can use diagnostics. Application, so anything that's not looking right, and this could work also for CS checks and things like that. Then diagnostics, language features. Okay, so this is where like all the good stuff is, I guess. So of course completion. Cursor over something and it tells you like information about it. It's just like a bunch of text or markdown. So you can return it in markdown or markdown. In Vim, you normally just have a shortcut to show the hover. For actual Vim, it does have this balloon thing. But for NeoVim, they didn't import it.
GVim.
Oh,
There's
for
GVim,
GVim,
right? Actually, I'm always forgetting that there is GVim.
Yeah.
Console only set up, but there is GVim, and it has hover, like the natural hover.
But there has to be an API call to make, I think it's balloon or something like this.
Yeah, for the console version.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But how does
I mean, for GVim, it's the natural hover, which is being elicited by the mouse cursor, right?
What does it show when you hover?
Context. I don't know what it's doing in general, but for LSP it works.
Okay. Yeah.
Like you can get whatever LSP is providing.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. So yeah. Anyway, that's hover and signature help. This parameters as you're completing them, and sort of filling them in.
Actually,
Declaration.
coming back to the completion of parameters, when entering parameters, there is this from Shugo. Do you know this guy Shugo? Probably. Yeah. He has this ecodoc adds to the command line window the current function or the completion of the parameters of the current function, and you have this progress. If you add one more comment, if you add one more parameter, then the completion will go further, and you know that you are going to end. I think it's ecodoc. Shugo ecodoc.
Is it also using LSP, or is otherwise how does it know the parameter types?
I think it's part of the whole DOPLEAD framework, and it may get its integrated into that. But I think it also works without DOPLEAD. Ecodoc, yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, very, very good. Good stuff.
So definition, type definition, so jumping to types, implementation. Find references, highlight document, code actions are really good. These are basically refactorings. So you can sort of request the code actions for a specific point, and the server can return and say, yes, I want to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. What do you want to do? Yes, I want to do this one, and then it can apply this refactoring, apply this extract method, this complete constructor, implement contracts, whatever. So that's really powerful. Then you've also got code lens. This is I don't know what this is. Code lens represents a command that should be shown along with the source text, like the number of references away to runtime. Okay, so it's like it's basically showing interactive help as you're going.
Yeah, explanation of where it comes from, or take a look.
Clippy, like in Microsoft Word.
Exactly.
This is to implement Clippy in language server. Documenting, formatting, rename, lots of stuff. It's made by Microsoft. Unfortunately, it's quite good.
But why unfortunately?
I don't like
Microsoft. Like Microsoft being good?
We may talk about that later. We can do it together.
Use of the \r.
But in the end, it really opens up a lot of possibilities and a lot of sort of ways to write really good back-end things like PHP Storm or IntelliJ, which have this sort of very dominant position in editing, or at least to give more competition. The really nice thing is that this isn't about VS Code. You can use it in Vim, you can use it in Sublime, you can use it in any text editor. Conquer of Code is even using VS Code extensions. So even, this idea of everybody using VS Code is sort of being ripped off and put into Vim. Maybe in a few years everybody will be using Vim. How do you Google in Google? I'll just show this and then that would be it, I guess. So it's quite influenced by Sublime, I guess. And it's using language server protocol. And it's quite awesome because it's using NeoVim as its server, I guess, and its editor. So this is interesting, especially for people that kind of like Vim, but don't want to sort of take the jump into the deep end, I guess. And it comes with a lot of interactive help to actually help people, learn the Vim commands and things like that. So that's something about the language server protocol.
thank you very much for your talk. It was a lot of new things in there about how this works, how Microsoft is using this, even with the special syntax. Yeah. And yeah, are there any further questions to Dan's talk?
I think there used to be a project called Google Kathy or something similar. Does anyone remember that?
Google
Kathy?
Cathy.
Or Kathy?
Never heard of it, no.
I think it was some similar LSP approach, or maybe it's also some kind of like an extension to it. I don't really remember. I got to know about it like 2 years ago, but never got back to it again. So nobody knows about it.
No.
No.
Then we'll take a look. No.
Yeah, I've changed my resolution so you can read it.
Do you implement your factor language server protocol in PHP also, or some other language?
Yeah. The protocol is just the protocol. It's not in any language. But yeah, Factor itself is all PHP.
Okay.
Yeah. And the plugin is VimScript, which was fun because I got to learn all the horrors of VimScript. Cathy,
so
like this.
maybe add LSP to this.
What?
LSP.
LSP.
Doesn't look very promising. Maybe it was not Cathy, but something similar.
Not coffee, maybe?
No. No, it was
Protocol?
okay. Maybe with C. Try with C. C maybe.
See what?
C Kathy with C instead of K.
Protocol buffers?
No.
That's something else.
Yeah, it's just a very slight memory. Maybe too slight to actually remember it.
But it's quite crazy that nobody's ever done this even before. You've got Atom have reinvented everything again, and all these other editors always reinventing.
It's a surprisingly good idea. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, like always, right? The Unix philosophy.
Sounds dodgy, but why not?
Why not?
Yeah, I think it's exactly right? You have a good editor, you have a good language parsing, completing whatever engine, and they both talk to each other, and you can switch
There's
them.
zero complexity in communication, right? And I mean, you push the complexity to something else, basically. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And you can just swap out, if
Yeah.
something becomes a piece of shit,
Yeah.
somebody's probably going to write another one, and then you can just switch over.
Yeah, your editor doesn't need to know what's going on. It's an editor.
I'd say the only... Yeah, I think this would probably be fixed, but the main problem is that you use one language server at one time. So if I'm using the SUM, for example, there's something called SUM PHP, which is static analyzer. It does language server protocol, and it does completion and diagnostics. But that's all it does. It doesn't do refactoring, it doesn't do code formatting, anything like this. So you say, okay, today I'm going to use this language server, and you only get those features. Because it kind of comes as like a monolith. But I don't think there's any reason you couldn't have a proxy, and then sort of proxy to different language servers. Yeah. But actually, like implementing the whole fucking language server would take years, to implement every single thing, and then all the different refactorings that you can do. I mean, then there's hundreds of different things you want to refactor, and they all take a lot of time to implement.
Yeah, but you may be lucky, like Microsoft has an interest in supporting Python, and I don't know what they did with language server with respect to Python. They may just decide to pour people into developing things for
actually,
Python.
I mean, you would have thought that.
VS Code's a Python plugin is supposed to be very good.
It's like this was developed. Yeah, this is PHP. This is a PHP parser. So Microsoft decided, even though there's a parser in PHP already, they decided to write their own one, which I can only guess was to support Versus Code in their attempt to sort of take over the market. But it's actually not that maintained anymore. It's like quite almost abandoned. Not quite, but yeah. What's my point?
the plugin.
Control S.
SF.
Oh, CF.
No, Control SF.
Control SF.
You compare it with multiple cursors. If you go on a word and use Control SF, it pops in a window all your from the word. Let's say with this class called user, and in a window it will from all the files put all the output where the user appears, and then with multiple cursors you can jump down all the words, and then you can just rename all the class and whatever that appears to a new to another name. So you don't have to use language server, and it's completely free from the language you're using.
Control SF.
Yes,
I
and you
found
have,
it here.
yeah, and then you have to pair it with another plugin called with multiple cursors, which simulates like the sublime multiple cursors,
Okay.
and then you have a refactor. So that's what I use to.
But I guess the problem is that it's not using any sort of deep like knowledge of the code, so it might have the same method name, but it's not necessarily the same class.
Yeah, but you can skip it then. You can choose what you choose. You just go with Control N, you go through the words, and if you see oh this method does not belong to it, you can go with Control X and you just skip and go to the next pair, next match.
Then I guess like with the language server, you're just saying like, okay, just rename this method, and yeah, hopefully it works.
If your language server has it.
Yeah.
When I used it for Python, it did not support refactoring. It was my problem with it.
Yeah, and this is like a big problem, which I guess will get better. I mean, like in PHP, there's this IntelliFence thing. I don't know. Again, I don't think it does refactoring, but yeah, I mean, there's like 2 or 3 different language servers for PHP already. Maybe even like 4 or 5. So there's lots of like competition, lots of things going on, and I think it's going to grow and get better. I think in some languages like PHP it's still quite difficult because like most developers are still using PHP Storm. I say still using PHP Storm. Most developers prefer to use PHP Storm. Like 99% of them. I think I did a talk once in front of 700 PHP developers, and I was like talking about the fact, and I said, alright, so who uses Vim? And there's literally like one guy at the back put his hand up. Yeah.
PHP Storm is more than just PHP editing, right? It comes with HTML, SQL,
JavaScript. Yeah. I mean, it's basically IntelliJ. It's like plugins, I guess. Yeah. Does anyone else want to like, I don't know, show you something or talk about something? Or drink another beer?
No, definitely.
Show my FCF. Is anyone using FCF? The Fuzzy Finder?
Yes.
Yeah, I tried it.
I looked for tons of issues to make it work that it always goes to the Git root. So you should search. I can show you the line. Maybe you can add it into your config if you're interested.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry guys,
quick
to go.
break.
Thank you very much for this meetup. I really liked it. Hopefully see you next time.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
I stopped using SFTP